And I used to ask the question, if you kept flying on Concorde around the world, would you eventually save yourself a whole day? Could you come back on yourself? It's a question for John Rentoul, obviously. John, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
You know, I mean, I'm so confused by the political landscape, I've just started talking about time.
You just and it always does my head in. You're absolutely right. Forward, back. You know, should we have double British summertime?
Yeah.
Or, you know,
I mean, it's become a big sort of talking point in America, because some states have apparently done away with summertime altogether, and they don't change their clocks. And because it's a federal system, some states can do that.
Well, I mean, and in America, it obviously gets mixed up with sort of Trump-style politics.
Yes.
It becomes a signifier of
yes.
being.
Yes, I suspect it's the Republicans who are pushing for, you know, no change in the time or something, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's something Peter Hitchens keeps going on about. I can't remember whether it's right wing to be in favour of not changing the clocks or to be in favour of changing them.
Right.
It really doesn't matter. Just change your clock, do what it says in the newspaper, and get on with your life. I mean, there are more important things.
There really are. I mean, one thing that we can say is that the good thing now is to be right wing. Just join the Labour Party, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, Keir Starmer has done several things which make him more right wing than Tony Blair. Cutting foreign aid.
He's more right wing than Rishi Sunak at this point, isn't he?
Well, Rishi Sunak started the business of cutting the foreign aid budget, didn't he? So
yeah, but he didn't start punishing. He didn't start punishing disabled people and taking money off them.
Oh, I think that was the Tory plan, wasn't it? I mean, they were going to.
Yeah, but they didn't actually do it because Labour would have been up.
Billions.
No, but Labour would have been so up in arms about the cruel Tories, absolutely horrendous. You know, taking money away from the vulnerable. But now Labour are doing it themselves. They're taking money from pensioners. They're taking it now away from disabled people. I mean, what?
Well, you say taking away. I mean, they're going to increase the welfare budget by less than was forecast.
Well, they're supposedly saving $5 billion from the welfare budget, and they haven't been able to guarantee. Wes Streeting, when he was asked the question, isn't able to guarantee that some people will not wrongly have their benefits taken away from them.
Well, of course you can't guarantee stuff like that, but I mean, the welfare budget is going to go up by $20 billion a year instead of $25 billion a year.
Well, that means they're cutting $5 billion, doesn't it?
Well, it's going to go up by $5 billion a year, yet less than was originally forecast.
So they're not actually saving.
I don't think that's a cut.
Well,
I think that's
so they're not. Well, they're selling it as if it's a cut because they're saying that's where they're saving the money from.
Well, it's a saving. You could put it like that, but I don't think they've explained it very well to their backbenchers, because I mean it's for Labour opponents of this so-called cut to explain why they think we should be spending 25 billion a year more on welfare rather than 20 billion. And so far we haven't really had an explanation from.
But this is the problem, isn't it? The whole budget really was an exercise in smoke and mirrors, because similarly the crackdown on civil service jobs isn't really a crackdown on civil service jobs, because it's 15% over 5 years, which is roughly 3% a year, which I'm told is roughly what the kind of general wastage rate would be anyway. And they've asked for people to voluntarily, seek redundancy, so they'll probably cover that just with voluntary redundancy. And they're not really slashing any jobs at all.
Well, but that's sensible, isn't it? I mean,
no, because we've got too many people working there.
Go up.
Well, no, but the point is that loads of people were hired during COVID, and Labour have said, again, I'm only quoting from what they've said, not from some mad thing that I've just dreamed. They said there's more people working in the civil service now than ever because they were hired during COVID, and we need to get rid of them. But they're not getting rid of them.
Well, they're going to get the numbers down, so that's a good thing.
No, but they're not going to get the numbers down over any other way than natural wastage, which is what would happen anyway.
That'll do.
Well, yeah, but that's not a policy.
As long as the numbers go down rather than up.
Well, that's like saying I'm going to legislate for the sun to rise, and under us the sun will rise, and then it will set.
No, it's not, because Mike, what we've seen since COVID is that the numbers have carried on going up. And nobody really knows why. Nobody seems to be, in charge of anything. Nobody seems to have set that plan. So at least if the plan now is to reduce the numbers, then that's a good thing.
But this is my point. The plan is not to reduce the numbers. The plan is now to perhaps not hire any more people and just let people kind of leave as they would naturally, which is not really slashing jobs, which is what they've sold it as.
Well, it's to cut the overall numbers by 15% over 5 years. That's that's progress.
Which is 3% a year, which is hardly anything.
Well, yeah, but it's better than going the other way, isn't it?
Well, I suppose so. But I suppose what I'm saying to you is overall, this entire budget is a bit of a sham because none of it
wasn't
really,
a budget.
None of it is.
Carry on.
Well, it was a budget. They just don't want you to call it a budget, and it really doesn't matter whether you can call it a peacock if you want. The fact is, it was a budget, and they said they wouldn't have a budget, so they got that wrong as well. And the fact is that
it wasn't a budget.
Well,
that's why the Conservative attack.
All right, why was it not a budget then? What's the definition of a budget?
Badenoch was trying to call it an emergency budget, and it fell flat because it really wasn't a budget. Because people know what a budget is. A budget is where you change taxes, and apart from some words, warm words about tax avoidance, Rachel Reeves didn't change any taxes. So
are you saying that a budget is only a budget if it talks about tax?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, that's what budgets are about.
Well, budgets are about surely fiscal policy, and this was about fiscal policy. Therefore, it was a budget.
Well, it was about long-term fiscal plan, public spending.
Well, how is that not a budget?
Well, because it didn't involve tax, and
well, it does involve tax actually, because at the end of the day, everything involves tax. If you're going to reduce the number of people who are working in the civil service, that's a tax saving. If you're going to reduce the number of people on benefits, that's a tax saving. So therefore, it was about tax.
She didn't announce any tax changes, and the Conservative criticism of what she said on Wednesday was that she didn't go far enough. She didn't do enough. She didn't. It wasn't imaginative enough, radical enough. She didn't cut enough from welfare, so it was too small to be a budget. And at the same time, they're trying to call it an emergency budget. It just didn't work.
Well, nothing about whether you call it a budget or not. It didn't work in any way, shape, or form.
No, the Conservative attack didn't work.
But I mean, it's not really about the Conservative attack, is it? I mean, the Conservative attack is a bit like being savaged by a dead sheep, as somebody once said. You know, they're not exactly getting.
But you were trying the same trick of calling it a budget.
No, because I think it is a budget. I'm calling it a budget because I'm not calling it a budget in order to criticise Labour, because I can criticise them without calling it a budget. I'm saying it was a budget because basically that's what a fiscal announcement by the Chancellor of the Exchequer is. It's it's a set piece situation. Therefore, it's a budget, surely.
Yeah, no, it certainly had some features of a budget, but it wasn't a budget.
So it had some. So you're now conceding it had some features of a budget.
Well, it had Rachel Reeves walking down Downing Street, and it had the IFS and the Resolution Foundation commenting afterwards. But I mean, apart from that.
But the bad news for Rachel Reeves, surely, is that Keir Starmer is now looking to appoint his own economic advisor.
Yeah, I thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah.
But the real
why is he doing that then?
Well, because he's realised that Number 10 is a rather underpowered operation, and he needs his own economic advice in Number 10, because he's not strong on it.
Surely the Prime Minister's main economic advisor should be the Chancellor of the Exchequer. If he brings in an independent advisor, he doesn't trust the Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Well, you need to have a check, don't you? You need something else.
Well, I don't know. I would have thought surely the most qualified person to advise the Prime Minister on finance and on the Exchequer is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, isn't it?
Yes, and I think they actually have a reasonably good relationship.
That's the problem he's got, isn't it? Because he'd probably rather like to get rid of her.
Well, would he? I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. That misjudgment she made over taking the Sabrina Carpenter tickets.
Misjudgment.
Yeah, that was extraordinary.
That's one way of putting it.
After everything they've gone through,
ridiculous.
For her to have accepted those tickets.
Yeah.
I thought was odd.
Really. Well, stupid is.
And now she says she's not going to do it again in future.
Yeah, and that's dropped. And that's dropped Keir Starmer in deep stuff, because it turns out that he's still been in receipt of a load of free Arsenal tickets to go and watch his favourite team.
Yeah, on the same grounds of security, because he has to go in the box.
Right.
I think they've got themselves into a terrible mess on this issue.
Yeah.
They thought they'd put it to bed by saying they're not going to accept any more donations for clothes.
Yeah.
But then they carried on taking donations of free tickets, and I don't know what the policy is now.
No. Well, I don't know if I said this to you last week, but I said it certainly last week. Surely to heavens, you would have thought in the current circumstances when they're being parsimonious with their money, let's put it that way, they're taking money from people, that's the perception, whether you think it's happening or not. They're taking benefits away from people, they're taking winter fuel allowance away from pensioners, all of that, they're taking farmers' money. It's not a good look, is it, to be getting free anything? And you'd think that somebody in Cabinet would have said to them, look, whatever you do, don't take any freebies, for this period of time while we're under scrutiny.
Well, or ever.
Yeah, or ever.
Quite a good idea. Yeah.
Well, you would have thought they would have had that conversation after the Lord Alley nonsense.
Yes. And they did have that sort of conversation because they decided not to take any further donations for clothes. But why only clothes? I mean, that just doesn't make any sense.
I know.
So they are the author of their own misfortunes on that.
They are. And I mean, things go from bad to worse. The coalition scenario of the willing is looking like it's just Keir Starmer on his own now, because there's literally no other European leaders really joining in. Emmanuel Macron keeps patting him on the back and shaking him by the hand and hugging him. But actually, the deal he wants to do to sell arms to Ukraine doesn't involve British companies. So, unless we give him some more fishing rights. So it's all a bit of a failure, isn't it?
No, I don't. Well, it's a bit early to say. I think the rhetoric is all about maintaining support for Ukraine now that the Americans have gone wobbly.
No, but he's trying to say it's not just about maintaining support. It's about providing troops. It's about providing a military threat to Russia. That's what he's talking about.
Yes, but the providing troops was always conditional on American support, which never seemed likely. So it was more a rhetorical device, I think. I mean, I don't think it was ever a real possibility that we'd be providing troops on the ground, because Keir Starmer's been clear from the start that depends on an American guarantee. And that's not going to be forthcoming. So
well, it will be eventually, but what I'm saying is, at the moment, all of this sort of dancing around in Paris and Brussels and wherever and touching each other on the shoulder, it's meaningless. It's all performative nonsense, virtue signalling. Look at me, I'm the great kingmaker and the peacemaker. Well, he's nothing really, is he?
Well, I don't think that's entirely fair. I think
there's no point to it, John.
It is about saying the right things, and that is important in international affairs. I mean,
but there's no point saying things if you can't follow them up with actions, and he can't follow them up with actions, and that's what we know.
Well, he is increasing defence spending, and that is not directly related.
They've said that the money they're using to increase defence spending is to do up the barracks of various different places around the country, which apparently have fallen into disrepair. They're not exactly.
Well, it's not only to do up the barracks.
Well,
I mean, it is also to produce more drones and weapons and to ship them to Ukraine. So, and I think there is an effort there. And it depends on, but everything depends on what happens between Trump and Putin.
Exactly. So without Trump and Putin in the mix, and without them in the room, it's meaningless. Yeah. That's my point. Anyway, John, listen, have a good weekend. Thank you very much indeed. John Rentoul, chief political commentator at The Independent.